Listen to this. Listen to this.
This year was just like, what would you put here? And then that made the nominations.
They didn't have numerical rankings.
You didn't rank. You didn't assign points.
They just had.
There was no round 2.
I'm dying
There was
inside.
no round 2.
No, they just collated your submitted.
I'm just
that's
like Miles. I'm
terrible.
dying
Wait,
inside.
what?
They just to ask the judges to submit nominations and then
This
averaged
confirms
out which ones had the
everything.
most nominations.
Let's get this
Confirms
right.
everything.
Let us get this right.
This confirms everything that I was speculating with the Anime Awards. The Anime Awards has a serious problem, and let's pause for a minute. Let's just pause for a brief moment here. Putting aside my personal taste in shows. Yes, did I want Solo Leveling Season 1 to win Anime of the Year this year? No. I felt there was, like, everything on that list in the nominations, I felt had much more impact, much more better storytelling. And again, I think a lot of people felt that Solo Leveling in that list meant Solo Leveling 1 and 2. People, we just got done with Season 2 ending, and then the voting started, and then people seen Solo Leveling and thought, my gosh, that bug fight was amazing. I even seen people posting, my gosh, Solo Leveling 1, so incredible, and then they had a clip of the bug fight. It's not Season 2. Putting aside, like, who actually won in the Anime Awards, because I think this is something of a bigger subject here about how to save the Anime Awards, because it's obvious to everybody that there's a problem with how they're structuring the voting process and everything. And one of the speculations that I had of the Anime Awards was that the popular vote was overtaking everything. And I also felt that because they had so many judges, like, I think there's hundreds of judges at this point. There's so many damn judges that we're getting to a point now where the only thing that reaches the top for the Anime Awards anymore is the most popular show. Because everybody, all the judges, all 100 of them or whatever, everybody has watched Solo Leveling. They have not all watched Apothecary Diaries. They have not all watched any of these other shows. Dandadan, even though Dandadan was extremely popular, Solo Leveling, they even talk about in this podcast. More people watch Solo Leveling than probably combined like 3 of the shows in that list. That's how popular Solo Leveling is. And that's not a bad thing. All the credits to that studio, all the credits to the author, I congratulate them. There's nothing inherently wrong with Solo Leveling. Yes, you can argue you don't like the writing of the main character, you can feel that the writing's not deep enough. Again, let's put aside that stuff and really discuss what exactly makes the Anime Awards broken by design. And that is by the nature of how the voting process works, because there's 200 plus shows every single year. And no, everybody that votes is not going to watch all 200 of them. Like a minute amount of people, they're going to watch every single show. And this little statement here, made by Tristan, for those who don't know what I'm talking about here, we have on the left here, we have Tristan, of course, Grass Reflection, very well-known AniTuber. And yes, he was actually judging this year. On the right, we have Jeff, again, Mother's Basement. He was not judging this year, but he has judged in the past. Miles in the middle here, he used to work for Crunchyroll, and he was the one that was actually heading the Crunchyroll Anime Awards for the first 5 years of it. I was actually a part as a judge during that time, at least the later 3 or 4 years. I forget if it was 3 or 4 years, but I actually worked with him quite a bit for the Anime Awards itself. And during that process, I really did feel like Miles and the team working on the Crunchyroll Anime Awards was trying to make it something good. And I think that came to fruition as you see what sort of won during that time. I mean, back there, yes, we had the first initial one, which was Yuri on Ice. Yes, it swept the entire board. And during that time, as Miles put himself, during that first year, he made a mistake. He admittedly made a mistake, allowing it to be a 50-50, judge per the popular vote. So essentially, whatever the judges choose, that's 50% of the weight. And then whatever the fans vote for, that's 50% of the weight. And he felt like that was sort of a mistake because, yes, Yuri on Ice pretty much swept the entire board. Admittedly, though, it seemed like it was warranted because even the judges themselves really liked Yuri on Ice. It's fine. That's fine. It wasn't my pick, and I wasn't really upset about it. But then we went on to 2018. I think this was the first year that I actually judged with it, and I was perfectly happy with the idea that Made in Abyss won. It was an incredible show, and it's something that, yes, many people would argue, and even this panel of individuals here all agree, this is something that would not happen in this day and age. Because as the years went along, what we sort of seen is that, yes, Miles said himself, he started to dial back how much the actual public had weight for the vote. As it went along, he was giving them less weight. I think he said that he got to a 70-30. So the fans themselves get 30% of the weight for the vote, and the judges get 70%. But what sort of happened as the years went along is that the amount of people that were voting and the amount of judges that they got was increasing. And again, what I think sort of happens is that if you have an increased amount of people watching shows, and an increased amount of judges that are judging for the actual panels, you sort of start to dilute the vote, essentially. Because again, this is 109, I believe, judges. And every single one of these judges has not watched all shows that had aired in the year, which is perfectly fine. I would argue that, yes, even myself, as much as this is my full-time job, all I do is watch anime, I have not watched every single show. It's just that we try to watch as much as possible, and yes, keep a listen in for things that everybody else misses. That way, we can essentially say, hey, everybody else, look at this title. But as you dilute that vote, you come to one common denominator. Oh yeah, the most popular show on Crunchyroll currently airing is Solo Leveling. So I guess I need to cover that for my publication, because it'll get the most attention to my publication. As many of these individuals on this panel are going to be probably writers, authors, whatnot for different journals, and guess what's going to get people's eyeballs? The one that everybody's watching. They're not going to write an article for Girls Band Cry, because barely anybody is watching it compared to Solo Leveling. Now what was interesting was that during this discussion, Miles brought up a very interesting point. Let's put aside Solo Leveling. Because I think in the end, it can turn to one of those things that you can technically award something that has the most attention. There's a reason why so many people watch Solo Leveling. It's enjoyable. It's easy to digest. You just sit down and watch it and it's fun. It's simply fun. But there was a different thing that happened during the Anime Awards that you can sort of critique.
Why the heck did Ninja Kamui, which most people who watched it did not like,
No.
win over something like Girls Band Cry, which
It
was
was
one of the
not
most
good.
beloved anime of last year? Why did it win Best Original Anime over it? And the answer is, if 10 times more people are watching
Ninja Kamui.
Ninja Kamui, which was absolutely the case, and then watching Girls Band Cry, you only need 11% of the people who watch Golden Kamui,
Not Golden Kamui. Ninja
Ninja Kamui, to
Golden
like
Kamui
it.
would have been a
To
lot
defeat
better.
everybody who watched Girls Band Cry.
Exactly. It makes sense when you actually think about it. Because yes, if you look at, let's just take Mal, for example. You go to Mal here. 184,000 members on it with a 6.62. As I argued about during my live stream, who actually liked Ninja Kamui? It was fun. There was some good things about it. But in general, when I listened to anybody talk about the show, it was, what is this? It wasn't what they were kind of expecting. It had some sort of drop-off point. They didn't enjoy it as much as they thought they would, yada, yada, yada. And then you look at something like Girls Band Cry, 113,000 membership. And look at here, 8.38. This was, I think, I didn't check all of them. This is easily the highest ranked, highest scored show out of that entire list of originals. Shoot, go to my favorite, Jellyfish. Jellyfish, 7.76 with 122. Did much better. Then go over here. Shoot, I would have picked this one over Ninja Kamui. 7.37 with 81,000 members. This right here is the biggest sign out of everything. Because again, you can make an argument for Solo Leveling winning. Because again, it's the most popular show. Why wouldn't it win? You can make that argument. That's perfectly fine. You can make that argument. It's fun to sit through, enjoy it, whatever. I don't care about watching a girl making medicine. I don't care about that. That's boring to me. Whatever. I want to watch Solo Leveling. You could make the argument, but can you make an argument for literally the least rated show winning in the original category? Why did it win? Because so few people watch Girl Band Cry, and so few people watch Jellyfish, so few people watch Train to the End of the World. It comes down to literally the numbers. It comes down to literally numbers. When the judge themselves, 109 of them, all watch the one singular thing, and then over here, the fans themselves, who are all voting, they maybe watched one or two shows that year. It's a numbers thing. It's a statistical thing. And it all comes down to, how do we fix this? How can you possibly fix it? Because it's obvious where this trend is going. From the very beginning, 2017, anime, Crunchyroll / whatever, was just kind of booming. It was just starting to boom in the West. And then as it starts to boom, it still has this sense here that there's these one little gems in the rough that can still come to the top. Devilman Crybaby, it comes to the forefront. They gave that credit to it. Demon Slayer came out. It looks gorgeous. It's fun. It's flashy. It's cool. Okay, it takes over. But then as it goes along, this is when we start to see that shonen boom happen. In 2020, in 2021, this is when that massive boom happens for the anime industry. Crunchyroll takes off. Their subs are just going crazy. Demon Slayer made Crunchyroll. That's why they always talk about Demon Slayer. It literally made them bank. It created an atmosphere around subbing to their platform and giving you anime titles. And that continues as it goes along. Guess what happens? These are all shonen series. And yes, you have, Cyberpunk over here. Again, warranted. And again, I have nothing against any of these titles. But what you're seeing is a trend towards shonen. You're seeing a trend towards one particular type of show, which is action battler shonen type series, which again is not a bad thing, but it's taking away from critical look. It's taking away really kind of judging what exactly is an incredible show. And that all gets me down to sort of my feelings on this first statement here. With every single award ceremony, there is a thought process there that you sort of have to keep the popular vote in check. And how they do that is they have a judge panel, a group of individuals that have watched quite a bit, and they know by testing around, by it being sort of their role, their job as a judge is to watch as much stuff as possible and find those gems. And thus, when they get to the panel to be judges, they sort of steer the vote. The idea is that weight towards the total vote sort of steers it in a direction. That's why you have things like Game Awards and whatnot has like a 90% judge to 10% fan vote. And then, they'll have on the side, they'll say, here's the fan choice. Here you go. Here's your win. But for us that are actually watching, hopefully pretty good amount of these shows, hopefully maybe just a little bit of taste into all 200 shows every single year, those individuals say, but you're all missing Made in Abyss. So we're going to tell you, you might want to start steering towards Made in Abyss. And Miles said that he was trying to increase that percentage, that the judges would have more weight and more weight and more weight. But at some point, of course, he left Crunchyroll. And then again, that's when we started to probably see that boom in the anime industry and things started steering towards shonen. Everything was steering towards, everything winning was shonen, which gets to the statement that we had at the beginning.
And then that made the nominations.
They didn't have numerical rankings.
You didn't rank, you didn't assign points.
What he's saying here, unless he's wrong here, this could be a mistake. Let me say that first and foremost. He may have missed an email. He may have misunderstood the process. But what this is telling me is they've removed the judge's weight completely, possibly completely. There's two scenarios that could be happening here. What they're doing is having the judges pick the nominations and they go, thank you. All right, fans, 100% weight. It's essentially could be at this point 100% fan vote. Which at that point, what's the even point in even having judges? You might as well use your top list that's on Crunchyroll's site and say, screw it to everything else. How it worked when I was a judge there, and that they're kind of shocked by here, is that what they would do is they would say, okay, here is a list of different genres, tell us your picks. And we would put shows in each one of them, and then would send it back. And then they would take all those lists and they would combine it to essentially make a top 5. I think it was 5, it may have been 6 or 7 or something like that. Anyways, and then they would send it back to all the judges for round 2. Round 2 is where you would essentially divvy out 100 points to all the shows in the list to then be aggregated towards the vote at the very end after they get the public vote. Here he's saying that because they don't have a second phase, there's possibly no judge vote. And now they sort of allude to, and it's a possibility as well, is that what's happening is that based on what you nominate, that's your vote, essentially. I could see that as well. I doubt it. I think what we're looking at here is that it has become 100% fan vote, which again, based on the system they have, it makes no difference. It really makes no difference at this point. I think the only way they can really fix this process as it stands now is to completely either revert it back to how it used to be when Miles ran it, or to change to sort of a, again, Game Awards type of system, where it's like a 90-10%, 90% judge, 10% fan vote. And at that point, again, you can have on the side, here is the fan vote. Here's just the popular vote. Here's what people voted for, without the judges included. But even still then, I do think they sort of need to revamp their judge system. Again, I said it before, I'll say it again. I have no problem with these judges. And there could be a lot of judges here that watch more shows than I do. They could have a better sense. They could be much smarter about anime than me. But the problem is that you have too many judges. And based on my experience with being a judge with the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, the communications was very little. Miles tried to help out. Like I communicated to Miles at some point saying, hey, there needs to be a way of sort of communicating. We need a way of kind of saying, hey guys, don't forget this show. Or hey guys, I picked this show because don't forget episode 4. Like there was this really incredible point. Don't forget this. There was sort of a way of sort of leaving comments or whatever, but it was very limited. What they need to do in order to really make the Anime Awards not just a thing that feeds into the big shonens, because I think a lot of like big fans of shonens probably love the Anime Awards. They probably love the Anime Awards, or they're probably just not into sort of figuring out how it functions. In order for it to kind of appeal to like the diehard anime fans, it needs a revision. And I think this whole panel right here with, again, 2 previous judges, myself being a previous judge, a current judge, hopefully still a judge after today. After they posted this, I hope he's still a judge. And then you have Miles here who literally used to run the thing. A panel here of people coming out and saying, something's wrong. Something is terribly wrong. And again, who cares who wins in the end? But at the same time, do you want it to be a laughing stock, or do you want it to be something that people enjoy watching? And the only way you can do that, again, is to give a stronger judge weight to the actual vote. You have to trim down the judges. You cannot have that many judges. You need to trim it down to a really solid group of 5 to 10 individuals who have their pulse on anime, who watch everything that is getting people's attention, look for all the obscure titles, and put together in collaboration with each other, discussing with each other, not sway each other, but maybe like limited comments that they can make to each other, have a lead of the panel who will filter what people say. But they can say things like, hey guys, go make sure to watch Orb. That's all the comment is. And they go, oh wow, I didn't even know Orb existed. Let me go watch that. It's that kind of comments. Have some way that they can actually communicate with each other, come to sort of an agreement in the end, make sure that everybody's on the same page to know what all shows need to be watched in a year. And then when it comes time to make the nominations, they make their nominations. It goes out to the fan vote. Everybody makes their votes. And at that point, come back and then have like a 90-10%. 90 judge, 10% fan. That kind of a weight system there. Have your fan vote rewards, that stuff as well. It's perfectly fine. But I think that's the only way you're really going to get this to kind of steer back away from shonen. Again, there's nothing wrong with shonen. I'm perfectly fine with people loving Solo Leveling. If you like Solo Leveling, that's great. Enjoy your shows. If you like this show, great. Like this show, great. Don't like this show, whatever. That's fine. What it comes down to, though, is that when you have situations like they're pointing out here, Ninja Kamui, which did not have a good score, winning over something like this, Girls Band Cry, who people loved. People loved Girls Band Cry. That should not be happening. This is a sign, as Miles pointed out in the panel. If only a small fraction of people that watched Ninja Kamui voted for that, it outweighs everybody that watched this show. And that doesn't say what show is better. It just says what show was watched the most. And if you want that list, you can just go on to Mal and find out. Well, looks like Ninja Kamui won because it has 184,000 people that watched it versus 113 here. That's the sad reality. And again, as people are pointing out with this post, showing each and every single year, what people are noticing is as this boom of anime increases, this is only going to get worse. And so the bigger question really is, in the end, and I asked the question this of Crunchyroll, if you guys actually legitimately want this to be taken seriously, if you want fans to actually enjoy your show anymore, if you want to correct course here, you have to acknowledge, do we want this to be a legitimate award ceremony where people critically think and critically look at the broader picture of what's all available? An award ceremony for people that actually consume anime? An award ceremony that acknowledges the cream of the crop? That knows critically this show is above all the rest? Or do you just want this to be a marketing ploy? Which is honestly how I felt about 3 years back when Crunchyroll decided to do the Twitter voting process. Every day you can vote on the website, hashtag this thing right here to give more votes to the show. It was a marketing ploy. Are you turning this into a marketing ploy? Is the only thing you care about is just to get people's attention? Because if that's what you want, that's what you're getting. But nobody's going to take it seriously anymore. There needs to be some drastic changes here. And I hope that Crunchyroll is listening. And I hope that they don't look at individuals like Tristan and Jeff here, and even Miles, and think, shut them up. Because I feel like I've pretty much burned those bridges. because after I left the Anime Awards and I started to see it sort of kind of going downhill, Miles left. It doesn't seem like they really care about, the fandom anymore. Earlier days, back with Yuri on Ice, even though I wasn't a fan of Yuri on Ice, I felt that fandom. I felt that love there. And again, when I started working with the Anime Awards, I felt like Miles wanted to make something special out of this. But I don't feel that anymore. And I started kind of speaking out, pretty much lost my probably hope of ever being a part of it again. And I hope these individuals don't either. But something needs to change. And again, I'm trying to be here from a standpoint of trying to give some critical feedback. Again, I think you guys need to change to a weighted system towards the judges. If Tristan is saying is correct that they have no weight anymore, that's bad. That's really bad. That's really bad because, again, I will have zero expectations for any future Anime Awards. It is purely, the joke is there. It's a popularity contest. This isn't about art. It isn't about the anime industry. It's about, again, choose the biggest show and get eyeballs on it. That's all they care about. And that's sad. That's really sad. I felt so bad. I felt so bad for Miles here. I'm like, this is his baby. Like, this is the baby that he worked so hard for. He even admits, I made mistakes, but this is my baby. I wanted it to be better. And now it's just gone. Hey, Miles, we need to get with Anime Trending or something like that. Miles, we got to get together with Anime Trending or something. We got to make the next Anime Awards. I think that unless next year they announce some change to their weighted system, I think this is it. If this doesn't change, this is it. This is the nail in the coffin. What Tristan said right there is the nail in the coffin. Because they're not publicly saying what their weight system is. And that's a sign. Anyways, just want to get on here and ramble. I wasn't going to make any more videos on the Anime Awards because I think most people are like, who cares? Why are you taking it seriously? But again, I'm like Miles here, where I wanted it to be something special. I wanted to be, that's why I took a part in it for so long, even though they didn't change things. I want to take a part in it because I felt like, again, what Miles and the team was doing at the time, they loved it. They wanted it to be something special. So, tomorrow. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button down below, comment, let me know what you think of this whole situation. I think Tristan's in trouble after this. I hope Tristan's not in trouble after this. But y'all take care.